now we'll be starting with our next session, that is on the DPIs, innovating for citizen learnings that for the from India. So in this panel, we have Mr. Varun Das from Bharti Airtel, who is the Executive VP and Chief Product Officer. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Varun on stage. We have Mr. Arun Sharma from World Bank, who is a Senior Digital Development Secretariat. I'd like to welcome him on the stage. We have Mr. Sanket Bhondwe from METI. I'd like to welcome you, sir, on stage. And we have Mr. Brijendra Kumar, who is a partner with KPMG. I'd like to welcome you on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, team, and welcome to our audience here. Today, we are going to touch upon a very important topic of digital public infrastructure. Now, we've been hearing about this for quite some time, and after the G20 presidency of India, we've seen this taking a very, very good momentum, where India actually has been showing certain lights to many countries in the global south about the steps that India had taken quite some time back in the DPI and built services on top of it, which are now being adopted not only within the country, but also in multiple other countries. So we'll touch upon that topic, and we'll also touch upon how AI is further powering these DPGs into taking this entire agenda of inclusivity, financial inclusion, and that larger access to the public. So we have got an eminent panel here, so very pleased to be here. So we have got Mr. Sanket Bhondwe, he's the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Information Technology. And we also have Varun, he's the Senior Vice President from Airtel. He's gonna share his experience. And we also have Arun Sharma, he leads the digital initiatives for World Bank in India. And there's a lot of learning which he has seen across the globe, which we can learn from, and there's something which we have done, which he's taking to the entire globe. So we'll discuss about certain aspects of that when we go further in this. But to start with, we'll request Mr. Sanket. India has been, now seen as someone who is a lighthouse for DPI for many other countries across the globe. But if you can touch upon for our audience, how does this journey begin? And what is something that we have done, which is now something which other countries are looking up to?
Thank you. Thank you, Brijendra, Arun ji, Varun, all the guests, dignitaries, students. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. And I was just coming, I saw the display in the expo, a very fantastic expo. I had a very good discussion, interaction. Last year also I came. This year also there are many new things to learn, and I especially went to the private vendor DPI. Like I saw the Geo platforms and all, and we all know like Amazon Pay, Google Pay and all, they are doing also very good one. So now coming back to the journey and what you asked, I think, see, this is something which have evolved. So agar aap pucho some 20 years back, what is it, how it will begin? So I think the genesis is into many things. But yes, for India, I think India, the digital public infrastructure have grown very fast and also with some substance, with some ethics, with some code. Because I feel that India is such a wonderful or beautiful country, with a very strong culture and such a population scale level and the size of economy and all. So this was going to happen. It was inevitable. The basic pillars, as we say, are always the jam, like the Jan Dhan accounts, the Aadhaar, the citizen stack, the identity, the mobile penetration. I remember last year when the German minister came for G20 and he went to a vegetable vendor in Delhi and he was buying that vegetable from the street. And he was so fascinated that I can buy my 20 rupees ki sabji, सीधा ले सकता हूँ. And then and because in Germany my brother-in-law stays and he says the visa was extended on a handwritten piece. So I double check. I said कोई fraud तो नहीं है. तो हम लोग बोलो यही, like he said that in Germany I will not compare these two countries because of the two levels, but a product like UPI is so fascinated abroad. It shows the excellence we have achieved. So I think the journey began. I can't exactly say the date or something, but for me, I think the digital public infrastructure today, let's talk of today, are a major component of the Indian economy. If we say it's a $3 trillion economy and we have to go to the $5 trillion economy, and then $1 trillion economy is to be the digital economy, DPIs will have to play, and they are playing a major part. I was in road infrastructure, physical infra. I worked with as a PS to Nitin Gadkariji for 6 years. As private secretary to a minister in road infra, I saw the growth of the physical infrastructure. Again, there we had the beauty of the cause, the design, the techniques. We are one of the second largest road network in India, in the world today. And then, fortunately, I came into the digital public infra. I saw this side of the table. And today, DPIs are doing so well. We have one of the premier DPIs we are offering abroad, like DigiLocker, Umang, UPI, Aadhaar, CCTNS. And in fact, we have today 15 stacks. I'm looking after DPIs basically in IT also with digital governance. We are increasing this stack to almost 50. We have 20 cloud service providers. We have good AI. We have cyber security modules, bots, which we can offer to the global friendly nation, especially the global south. We are working very closely with the MEA and External Affairs Ministry where we can go ahead. And I think again the scalability is very good. See, for example, national level chhod do aap. Delhi, we are sitting here in Delhi, we are talking. But let's go to Telangana in Hyderabad. Let's go to Mumbai. And Mumbai best, the Mumbai electricity and state transport. Again, it's such a good platform. We can't compare with the TFL Transport for London of London. But then we have also some very good examples of small scale DPIs at a state level, which now we have decided to standardize. They may be evolving, they need some maturity to grow. We will help them with some technical support, some financial support, and then we are coming with a basket of things which we can offer. Also, apart from that, there are many services like not only core DPI, but digital public infrastructure is also goes around a buffer area where there are services. So I am also looking after BISAC. So BISAC is basically Bhaskacharya Institute of Satellite and पूरा एक जो geospatial arm है. So you'll not believe we are providing almost 22 educational services to satellites, to SAARC countries. So that we are doing obviously on the platform of PM Gati Shakti, which again is a DPI. So somewhere I think it's a DPI of DPI. Now the journey is going, and now I think we are coming with the concept of Ek Bharat. So Ek Bharat will be the DPIs of DPI with one house, all the doors and windows connected. Thank you.
Great. In fact, the way it has been evolving in the country, because it has always been questioned, we have seen projects happening across the globe. Some succeed, some fail. Now, this is one thing which you've seen, that there's something which our country has learned. So, one after another, Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker, we are repeating it successfully again and again. So there's some kind of a playbook which we have adopted, which is something which shows some light to many other countries, where how do we go and create successful DPIs one after another? That itself is a great thing. But before I go further into that, I'll bring in Varun here, because as Sanket sir mentioned about a physical infrastructure which he was a part of, which the largest road network, second largest road network across the globe. Now even this DPI, runs on certain infrastructure. And one of the very important such infrastructure is telecom. Now that's where, those are the rails on which many of these services are getting provided. That's where the inclusion happens. That's where the accessibility gets addressed. So Varun, what's the role that you see, a telecom provider plays in not only supporting as a backbone of taking these DPIs, but also creating new innovations, to capture this entire value which the country is creating?
Thanks a lot for having me here. It's a really good and very relevant question. As Sanketji said, there is a journey that we've taken as a country to get to this point. And if you look at the role that telecoms play, there's two aspects I can talk about. I think it starts with connectivity. You can have digital inclusion, financial inclusion, if people are able to access services that DPI offers, right? I mean, you heard some really good examples at the state level, at the national level, right? The underlying foundation is connectivity. At Airtel, we've been in the business of connecting people for now 3 decades, right? But connectivity is not just laying out networks, putting out a mobile infrastructure. It's also about giving citizens access to much needed pieces on two parts. One is from a consumer standpoint, and the other is from businesses. Because a lot of services like UPI, like the ONDC, are what businesses will have to use and then consumers consume. And I think if you think about the underlying connectivity, when you look at remote areas, today 95% of our population is roughly covered in terms of access to internet. In fact, in 2015, when the government launched the Digital Bharat mission, right, the goal was to, the BharatNet actually, the goal was to have 630,000 inhabited villages connected. And I think it's about inclusion, right? We've done the same in remote areas in Leh and Ladakh, where small business owners who had homestays wanted to connect, and instead of taking cash, now they accept UPI. And that's a big part of digital inclusion, also financial inclusion. That's why today we do about 1.3 billion transactions a month on UPI, which is phenomenal, right? The second critical part of this is, as telcos, we have the ability to reach and distribute a lot of the power of what DPI offers. To give you a very simple example, we serve about 400 million customers today, 2,500 enterprises, and more than 1 million small businesses. When we think about payments, or we think about something like an ONDC, which we're partnering with ONDC directly, is how do you use the power of reach? So we're in the big tier 1 cities, metros. We're in tier 2, tier 3, in the remotest villages of India. And I think there's a very important ability to scale. We have digital distribution that allows people to access it through, say, the Airtel app. We have physical distribution. We have little banking agents in small villages that allow access to what the core functionality that DPI provides. And I think in India, the most fascinating thing about India is the innovation is happening at the telco layer. We're thinking deeply about who is the customer, what is it that they want. And a very small example of that is India is powered by a lot of entrepreneurs, right? And I think it's part of the DPI framework, which is tried. Startups is a big part of it, right? For fueling entrepreneurship, you need access to credit. And so because we have a relationship with more than a third of the country, our ability to find new to credit customers and give them access to credit that allows them to fuel or participate in the digital economy or in the Indian economy to that $5 trillion economy goal is something that we are doing today at Airtel.
So thanks, Varun. In fact, that is something which is so heartening to see, from Andamans to Leh. Wherever there's a requirement of that connectivity, it's the service providers who are now coming into picture. And it's not only now, we have got SATCOM coming in, so it's not only the traditional connectivity means that we have been using. We have been innovating on top of it and ensuring that access is more spread across the country rather than remain in certain pockets. But let me just come to Arun, to you, because whatever we do, and we do a lot here in India, our ability to take it to different parts of the globe would remain limited because the focus is still how do we grow India as a country. Now, World Bank having its presence across the globe, across multiple countries, is playing a great role in taking this entire, initially an experiment and now a success, to the various parts of the globe and bridging this information gap where somebody may not be aware of what works and what does not, and then ensuring that those countries, and particularly the countries in Global South, are leapfrogging. They're directly jumping from where they are to a system which is now mobile enabled, which is more runs on internet. So I just want to understand the role World Bank is playing in bringing those countries here or taking the information back to those countries. And that's what we'd love to know.
Thanks, Vijay. And I echo my fellow panelists' views on the foundational aspects that the Indian story has played in India's journey of DPI. So, since your question is specifically for the World Bank's role in evangelizing or spreading India's knowledge in DPI, so for the past 8 years now, there have been about 65 countries that have visited India on knowledge exchange missions to see and observe and learn from India, and that have been facilitated by the bank. Out of that, there are about 20 initiatives which the countries are taking based on the learnings, and I wouldn't say that it's a one-to-one match. Obviously, there are other examples that exist. India's by far at its scale and its level of deployment. There's no other example. I mean, there's China, but it doesn't share anything in terms of data. But putting out ID for 1.4 billion, putting out payments which transact, which record numbers at 9 billion a month transactions. So that's a scale at another level. So learning from that, how various components of the DPI ecosystem come together to perform and to deliver services to a citizen, what Varun mentioned, riding on connectivity and bringing in the trust with which you can interact, that's something that India has been able to do. So of these 65 odd countries that have come to India, learned from India, there are 20 that are adopting Indian examples, and which is where the bank is helping. And through technical assistance and funding support, now the bank is offering support of about $2.5 billion in Ethiopia, in Morocco, in Indonesia, in Philippines, in Latin America. So these are lending programs that we do to these countries, but these are specifically for their DPI ecosystem. And within the DPI ecosystem, there is a gradation that I'd like to point out. So the foundational digital ID becomes the base. I mean, if you remove Aadhaar from our equation, half the things wouldn't be where they are. Then, of course, the payments layer, or the fast payment system, as we call them in the technical term. In India, we have the UPI. Brazil, there is PIX. In Singapore, there is the MAS, and so on. Each country has its own systems, and UPI, it's robust, it's secure, it's resilient. As I said, recording about 9 to 10 billion transactions a month. So both these technologies or these solutions came up in parallel. ID was started in 2009-10. The UPI had its own journey, starting with wallets and then going to bank-to-bank transfers, and then finally into the fast payment system, which is built on IMPS and which is built on the NEFT and the RTGS and all that. So it's a lot of work that has gone in, which obviously doesn't make it to the news. What we see is the overarching combination that appears. But each country is replicating or trying to address or learn from India's example. It's a huge soft export that India has, the knowledge. And I think we should build and capitalize on it more and more.
Thanks, Arun. You mentioned about just two words which, and I'll talk about those. One is trust, because what we are doing, the overall adoption of it would not be as high as we have here till the time the trust element is not very clearly there. So UPI, as you mentioned, UPI works with so many service providers coming from India, from outside, and still people do not hesitate using it everywhere because they have a trust somewhere that NPCI and say RBI, somewhere who's actually looking at it, that their money remains safe. Similarly, when we do services around Aadhaar, now there are organizations who do use the eKYC, have that trust that Aadhaar would not fail them. So that's something, the power which these underlying UPIs have created for the innovators to innovate on. Now, one of the next thing that we are looking at also, and this is an age of AI. We are talking about responsible AI. We talked about India taking your lead on how AI can be adopted across the country. Now, there's a story about AI within the DPI itself. And we were looking at, and we will discuss about that how DPI, which itself is a power now, can be further powered and supercharged with the adoption of AI into it. So I will again come back to, because that's where a lot of things starts, which is from the government. How government right now is looking at bringing certain AI solutions, and ensuring that these DPIs become more powerful, become more. It's already ubiquitous, so we can't say that more people start using it, but more effective. And obviously we are aware of certain things that you're doing it, in the fraud part of it and the language part of it. But if you can touch upon some of those initiatives which countries taking, which then will go further.
So actually, I would like to tell you both the phases, dark phase and the nice phase. Starting with the dark phase, you said trust. So I remember trust deficit was one thing which always in government we had to work upon, for the services to reach to the people, the citizen. Trust was one thing which citizens expected from the government. And today I'm very happy DPIs have brought that trust. And why? You see, why are cyber crimes happening? Why are the scam and fraud there? Why is one old person giving his OTP to any of his scamster? Because that trust, which is on the government DPI part, somebody is fooling us, right? Now, coincidentally, I am also Section 690 authority. I block the deepfakes, any harmful content on the web. There are 36 types of harmful content: terrorism, nudity, child sexual abuse, law and order, communal riots, many things. Daily I deal with them, and we talk with all these meta platforms like Twitter and all, and we just keep on cutting them, blocking them, taking down. So basically my point is somewhere the dark phase. So what the AI is used here? Many a times AI ML is used to create the deepfake. There is the encoder, decoder, the engine and all that. Myself from the IT background, so I will not go into so deep, but let me tell you that this is the dark phase where AI is used for such harmful content which is spread on the net. People just see that, they believe that, and this is one thing. Second part, let's come to the major part now. The brighter part, entertainment, education, health, lot of things. Obviously, see, today we must talk of AI. If we are not talking of AI on this platform, we are missing. We are missing we are a fool, I will say. It is a mandatory part of our life, of all the DPIs. Government today have brought a comprehensive program of almost 11,000 crore of an AI mission. ऐसा नहीं कि पहले होता था, but it was in bits and pieces, like some department is doing and then culture is doing and urban ministry is doing something. So now we are having an umbrella program. Umbrella word is very good because we have 85 departments. Niti Aayog is coordinating something, and the urban department, commerce mein kuch ho raha hai, everywhere. I think my friend Arun will tell, Varun will tell. So under this AI mission, there are 7 components, which 2 of the components I myself see. One is the responsible AI, which I just gave you a glimpse. I don't want to talk too much on that because the focus will shift. And one is the data exchange. So the AI program, again, obviously we know LLM, it will start on the LLM, but I have 4 lakh data sets with me today. 4 lakh data sets, 3 lakh APIs. उसमें आप पूछोगे सर क्रेडिबल कितने हैं, तो आई एग्री, credible and the best, if I filter them out, there will be in thousands, but they are there. So the AI program will obviously stand on this. Now, for example, I went to the e-Sanjeevani. So I said, I have cough, I have allergic cough, so I have bronchitis. So I sat on the table and I said, tell me, Dr. Saab, मुझे खांसी हो रही है, मुझे क्या दोगे? He was sitting in Bangalore. right? Because it is my platform. I have to check. Correct. Tomorrow Brijendra will ask me, sir, क्या है वो चल रहा नहीं है, वो फेक है, वो क्या किया आपने, है ना? तो I have to full proof. What is संजीवनी? आपने किसी ने ई संजीवनी देखा है, ट्राई किया है? How was the experience? नीचे देखा है, आप यूज करो. और कौन? आप बैठे थे कुर्सी पर, डॉक्टर से बात की? अच्छा, आपने लाइव थर्ड पार्टी बोल के देखा. आई थिंक अगर किसी को सर्दी खांसी जुकाम में खुदा खांसा नहीं हो, तो दिल्ली के से पोल्यूशन में हो सकता है, तो डेफिनेटली यू शुड गो टू आवर स्टॉल ऑफ डिजिटल इंडिया, सिट देयर एंड गेट इट. माई पॉइंट इज AI is a very basic, AI ML both are very basic things of this e-Sanjeevani program, where we are also with the help of Bhashini, again where there is a Bhashini again is the engine of 22 languages, local languages and all, where AI is used. And I said give me prescription, and I said give me prescription in Marathi, my local language, and I gave in Santhali. You have to check. हिंदी इंग्लिश तो सबको आता है, ऐसे दे देंगे सांप को खुश करने के लिए, सांप सब कुछ चंगा है. Nothing. So basically AI is being used. Example I gave like e-Sanjeevani, health, Bhashini, yes. UPI you spoke about. Let me tell you about one more platform, just something different. PFMS, the Public Financial Management System, PFMS. Today 2/3 of the government budget, almost 28 crores, is on PFMS. So as a joint secretary, I look into also PFMS with Ministry of Finance and all. So AI is also being used for corrective algorithms and all, to see that the budget, the finance is properly used, there is no error, because there are crores of money, right? Data sets are very rich. Let me tell you, my data sets are gold mine. My data sets are gold mine. We are planning to come out to monetize them. It will benefit the whole human society. And again, one thing which I specially speak, I want to give the example of AI in government projects is for Divyangs. So today we have, who will tell me how many categories of Divyangs we have? Someone? Tell me the band, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. There are 21 types of categories of Divyangs. So we have come up with a module of Chal Charitra Vachan. The project name is Chal Charitra Vachan, Sanskrit name. I work for Divyangs as collector in Hoshangabad. I was collector Ujjain. So where we work for the Divyangs in the Mahakal Mandir to bring them to the Garbhagriha and make many services available. So here the hearing impaired and the deaf people, blind and hearing impaired, both deaf, they will avail the services of AI automation videos. Today, Indian Sign Language is a very small part. New Zealand have sign language as official language. New Zealand have sign language as official languages. We in India only have 300 sign interpreters. Official 500 ज़्यादा होंगे, unofficially भी ज़्यादा होंगे, जिसने सीख लिया वो बात करता होगा. So bridge this gap, we are using AI. So you say something, hi Varun ji, आप कैसे हो? And you put it in the chat board, a video will come up with that lady, and she will say this with the expressions, gestures and all. This will help the blind to hear and the deaf to see what we are saying. Today we four are talking. If someone there is blind or deaf, they can't interact with us, they can't see. So this is what we are doing. So government is doing a lot of things. Let me tell you, the 90 crore projects we started, and the best of Indian people working in the Divyang field, like Manu Maulana Azad Urdu in Hyderabad, Pankaj Maru from Ujjain, Mr. Pandarkar from Mumbai, the best brains, let me tell you. We all came together to make this platform, because we can't say we are complete without giving it to the last mile, each and every citizen. So a lot of things are happening, and I think soon we will also come up with a program where this will be integrated for all these DPIs. What is happening is every department is now trying to come with an AI chatbot or AI virtual assistant. So we have two mandates in this government in 100 days. One is Ek Bharat, all DPIs to be integrated. They should talk to each other. Right now they are in silos. There are some logical reasons, limitations which we have to counter, like some are critical. I can't tell ISRO to talk with us. I can't tell DRDO to be open, because of defense and strategic. but others are possible like culture, tourism and all. And second is the AI chatbot, virtual assistant, Bharat. The Bharat chatbot, AI virtual assistants will be a chatbot which will be installed on all these DPI like Umang and DigiLocker and it will help. It, again, this Chal Charitra version will be part of that. Thank you.
Very helpful, sir. I've been, working in this space for almost like 2 decades now. Every other day I get to hear, know something new, which then can be leveraged for the next set of services that's going to get offered. So, love to know more. So I'm sure this is going to.
There's one problem. Everybody should hear. The DPDP Act is coming. I am OSD DPDP. The data protection, digital protection rules. कितना मालूम कितना दंड है उस पर? मैडम आपका नाम क्या है? आप बताइए आप. हाँ, प्लीज स्टैंड अप. व्हाट्स योर नेम? Priyanka, your name, your mobile number, everything. I think Varun ji have everything if you are an Airtel customer. If Varun shares your data without your consent to even in a bona fide way to someone, to Jio or to me or to some scamster, जो इनको भी मालूम नहीं होगा कि the third party. I am just taking example. Don't mind it. How much penalty DPDP? See. 250 crore is the penalty. So now the point, my point is, we are talking about DPIs and AI, but we have to be very cautious to use the citizen data very carefully without the consent, like DigiLocker hai. So we have put an small radio button ki yes, I consent. Basically, you have to agree because you will not get the services. It's like going on the airport and to frisk. अगर आप फ्रिस्किंग नहीं करोगे तो प्लेन में नहीं बैठोगे, तो जाना ही पड़ता है उस दरवाजे से. But that is very mandatory because now that is a law under parliament. So we have to also, in one aspect, see it through the prism of DPDP. Very important.
Very helpful, sir. And in fact, I know that would have woken up Varun, that risk that. But importantly, I'm still very thankful to see, the kind of role the telcos have been doing into bring that trust, using AI. So fraud is a reality, and the more things we are going to put on the net, the more we are interacting with people who are bots, and we don't know who are we interacting with. At that point in time, it's very important that someone is playing that role in securing our transactions. So Varun, coming to you, and I'll give you this mic. What is So what is something which say you represent Airtel? Airtel is doing in managing these frauds better. You also run a payment bank. So again, sir, I've spoken about how this entire PFMS is protected. Using AI and certain services get provided. What is Airtel doing in this space? About securing this, creating that trust for the last man who's receiving these services.
Thanks, Prajendra. But first, I'd like to thank Sanket ji. I think he's laid the perfect foundation for this conversation. But more importantly, I think if you think about what he talked about the human aspect of how you apply a technology. And I think at the end of the day, DPI is for the betterment of the citizen to make a lot of these services accessible. He talked about healthcare. You can think about how it augments healthcare in remote areas where you have a scarcity of doctors. Like the closest district hospital will be 2 hours if you go to the remote parts of Uttarakhand, right? But there's something I'll touch upon on 2 areas. I think there's a component of DPI which is the data exchange play, which is, I think, being evolved. And आपने जैसे बोला the DPDPA Act, the person who answered is the person who's ensuring that we do it right. So we take data very seriously, and it goes back to trust. You want to work with data in a way that is responsible, that is respectful of the way customers share it, right? Because the intent is to make services better. So when you think about how AI is evolving as part of DPI, my take is that in 5 years' time, AI is going to be pervasive and it's going to be ubiquitous. I mean, all of us are talking about it. I don't think it'll be any different from electricity or water. It's going to be in every part of it. So Today, in the DPI ecosystem, AI is already being used for example, computer vision to prevent fraud. Like in the identity ecosystem, it is being used for fraud detection in payments ecosystem, which is UPI, right? In fact, our responsibility was ensuring that customers are safe while they're transacting, and that's why we're today the first network that launched the spam protection. And that is also about driving trust, right? You then look at the data exchange ecosystem, there's this consent mechanism. So think about how many services you use, but do we have consent to leverage, this is the question that you asked, do we have consent to leverage a customer's data for accessing that service? So I think today we're all focused on how do we build a consent management system, and AI can play a role in that to say, did I give consent in 5 services, lekin maine idhar nahi diya, and can I detect a breach of trust? So I think AI is a technology that at the end of the day will be deployed for the betterment and improvement of the DPI. It will leapfrog us in many cases, and in many cases there's a dark side to it. So how we deploy artificial intelligence for the good of the country, for the good of the citizens is really the question to ask. And that's where the debate should be. That's where the applications have to be thought through. And I think the government has a very important role, which they're doing, is setting the guidelines to say, if you're going to go do this, think about it in a responsible manner. And that's why you have acts like the DPDPA.
Thanks, Varun. And the fact is that this entire discussions, I think it's important to have those discussions around treating the data responsibly, getting this entire consent mechanism. Now, consent has been taken for granted normally, The fact is that how do people become a little more aware of their own rights before they share the data, before they share the consent, understand the implication of that consent. So it's about the larger society learning about how to deal with AI than only the companies who are providing services around it. But that brings me back to Arun, and then Arun, you initiated this entire thing around trust and then what we spoke about. But given this AI is not country specific, when we start using AI services, we talk about hypercloud, hyperscalers, data centers being outside, the data traveling outside, how are, in your views, in your experience, countries handling it? Do you see any challenges in AI getting adopted for making DPIs, more strengthened? Or do you see there are certain things that we need to take into consideration before we start putting AI in everything that we do?
So I think right now we are in the growth phase of AI. And every country, every region is formulating its own laws and regulations around AI. As Sanket mentioned, the India AI mission, the World Bank's experience, is perhaps the most comprehensive way to approach the subject. There are 7 verticals, as he mentioned, each of which has been thought out very well. The most important one, I encourage you to read about it, it's available online, is the datasets program. You can replace everything else. There's compute. You can buy compute from, depending on availability. There's skilling and capacity. You can hire more engineers. And then there is, the governance, the safeguards, and those are all often residual. Nobody thinks about safeguards before you think about innovating. Innovations and safeguards are often at loggerheads. You have to come to a balance in due course. But it's the data of what you're trying to process. Why is ChatGPT, if you ask it something, it has a bias towards an American model? Because all the data that has been fed into it comes from American data sets. And in India or in other parts of the world where this has not evolved to the level where ChatGPT is or Llama models are, and which is where we'll see the next set of innovations. Why is Bhashini important? Is because it's bringing together the 22 Indian languages at a machine learnable scale. So when that happens, then you'll see examples in your own context. So as he said, Marathi mein bolna kisko, how, I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if you ask something to ChatGPT and it's responding to you, giving a Marathi anecdote from, some folklore, some story? All that is missing. In fact, in Europe, there was this huge drive where they considered the American models as a threat. And each country, not just as an EU, as a federation, but Italy, France, were each thinking of developing their own language models, catering to their own culture. Because in the end, it will, with the kids growing up, I mean, most of the audience here is young people, young children from school or colleges, at least visibly. The next generation will only see machines. They'll be native, machine-trained generation, and they'll only see what is the machine telling them. So it's important to bring the culture into the machine so that when the responses come, it's learned in that sense. And I'm not talking as World Bank, but as a citizen of India, as a person who as a father, as a person who lives here and who sees evolution going this way. So coming back to governance and laws and trusts that are coming up, there is a list. There's a Bletchley Convention in the UK where 30 countries had signed up, and they're all again say as the fundamental principles that they're adhering to is what are the harmful use cases. So it's easy to identify harmful use cases and banning them rather than saying that these are some cases where you should work on. So I think that's one approach, blacklisting a few areas where one should not be innovating in, frauds or something. Airtel would have this ready-made kind of a detail on kind of frauds that are going on today, and they're getting more and more sophisticated in rising digital transactions, and that's another vertical that we'll have to see and mature. And it's all linked to AI. Obviously, the faster the speed of processing, faster the more data sets that are available, you'll see the response of frauds versus the actual true transactions. So what Sanket had earlier referred to, cyber crimes. How do you identify a fake from a real one? It's going to get more and more difficult. So regulating that space is important, and then pushing gently on the positive aspects in healthcare, in education. How do we incentivize the innovative ecosystem to produce better solutions so that it's an inclusive digital society? That's going to be the challenge.
Thanks, Arun. In fact, very nicely touched upon the two aspects. One, what is some area where, we have a very, very clear, our eyesight's on and see that something which is actually harmful, that is regulated. So obviously there is a discussion around, recognition, facial recognition part of it, can that be misused? Or the fact that, is it being used for, threatening, so how do we ensure that it should not go and we create drones, which goes and attacks humans, specifically because of the AI technology around facial recognition. And there are quite a few things, on the children toys, how do we ensure that AI should not go in there? So there are areas where AI should not go, but the areas where it can innovate, area where it can power the things that, the entire DPI can bring in, that's the area which is, is of great interest, evolving every single day. You mentioned about data sets, and I very clearly know MeitY is working on opening up a large amount of data sets within the country, which will act as a base for the Indian LLMs, which get created. And we've already seen many of the Indian companies creating their own LLMs, which is more India specific. and ensuring that whatever, the AI system that we go and use actually understands Indian context. It certainly would understand Indian language. Bhashni has ensured that. But Indian context understanding, that's where these data models will come and support. So I was trying to thank you, everyone. So, we have Sanket ji, great work with Government of India is doing. And the fact is that more roles that you are now taking within that, which is, I'm sure, which is going to go a long way, the way the country is approaching DPIs. Varun, thanks, for the kind of thing that, you told us about the trust, how do we bring in, and how the role the telecom players are playing, not only for creating those infrastructure, but also innovating on top of it, ensuring that it's secure, the trust gets built, and hence, more value can get generated. And Arun for bringing us, the larger world landscape, what is global doing, what is something that we can learn from them, and more importantly, what is something which India is doing that can be taken to the world. So acting as a channel for that. So thank you so much for each one of you. It is, one of the very enriching discussion, me personally, but I'm sure the audience would have, liked it and taken home some of the introspection. Thank you so much.